Alright, we are back, live playing jams all night, your favorite tunes from the 40s and 50s. Okay, so we are continuing the series of small little grab bag basswood chunks, but you can do them on any little small pieces. We're doing a bird today, and we're specifically kind of, fitting a bird in a shape, like a lot of things, we do in carving, especially that I do. If you guys saw my, where I showed off my own carvings, talked about it a lot. Kind of designing the product around the wood that you have, and then trying to pull it off so it makes it look like you meant to do that, not because that was your limit of the wood. So a bird with if he's not too crazy of a position, and without his wings spread or anything, you can get him diagonal in a block. And you can also do this in a branch if you find one. You have to watch out for the pith, of course. But if you do them diagonally, you shouldn't have any problem with the pith being a weak spot for anything there. I'm just kind of, doing some little, ideas here in the illustrations about what's going to happen. There's some different kind of tail feather things that could happen. I had to shoot this a few times, and then I also had practiced carving it a few times. And so I ended up with quite a few birds. Did it quite a few different ways. So what we're doing here is basically in modern wood carving, there's a very big idea right here. Okay, that you have a block of wood that's processed or whatever, and if you don't have a block of wood, by the way, if you're using found wood, you can very easily, turn it into a somewhat sort of block, so you can do this with it. And I've done that before too. Anyway, so whatever it is you want to carve, you don't have to go looking for designs or anything. You can get on the internet and find whatever animal, whatever the thing is you want to carve, and find a top, bottom, side view, and get those in a little image program. Get them all lined up and same proportions as the piece of wood that you have. And you just trace it on there, transfer it on there, or glue a piece of paper that you print out onto the wood. And really, you just kind of go with these straight cuts. You can see here I'm kind of doing corners. Even with a small piece like this, I still have to go with the path of least resistance. But you're going to kind of pretend that you have a bandsaw, right? And this is kind of another reason this series is here. When you go looking for projects, most of them are from the older generations of carvers who have these basements and they have all these huge tools, specifically bandsaws. So, they'll do this technique here where they put an image on a block of wood, and then their bandsaw cuts this crazy shape out, and almost all the work's done. They basically just have to round it out, and they're just impossible. But most of those projects you can't do unless you have a huge bandsaw. So this one you can do, all right, and you can kind of get a feel for that. And it's also, again, you're always going to have limits, and generally limits are going to bring more creativity. So, like in this situation, we're not letting the fact that we don't have a bandsaw hold us back. We're going to, try to excel under the circumstances. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm slowly kind of like carving these kind of flat cuts after working away at them. So I did a bunch of these, and in this one I'm doing the sides of the bird first, and I'm not sure if that's the best way. I think the one that I did, the few that I did, where I did the top and bottom first, that actually was much more clear in what was going on as far as the bird goes. And I'm going to be jumping all over the place as usual, guys. This runs into another topic that I discuss a lot, which is when you're, tackling these 3D shapes, you want to you want to have like these steps, okay, so that you don't the piece doesn't get muddled. The reason for that is that your brain will project what needs to happen next if there's enough information already there. Okay, so you basically go through these like steps of ever complexifying geometry, if you will. And in this case, this is a very good example of how it works. Is you're just basically doing this kind of silhouettes or profiles, and that kind of gives you this rough out, strange shape that's very dynamic. And then you can basically just round it out and go from there. One of the issues, so you kind of have to pick, again, on if you're going to do the sides of the top, because whichever one you do first, the other one's going to be carved away, the drawing. So you'll see here, as I do in this in a little bit, I will draw onto the curved surface, but it just doesn't work quite as well. So again, I would suggest doing the top and bottom, but mess around with it. And these little cuts right here that I'm doing there on the little shoulder and the neck, don't force those too much. Don't keep them a little bit out. These are very small pieces here, and any concave, wood stuff. I know for me personally, I had a huge problem when I was starting to carve, where the knives don't really like doing concave cuts, convex, or whatever it is. They don't like. It's called a scallop cut when it goes in and then back out, right? And there's certain knives that can make better scallop cuts, depending on the size and whatever. But the knife will, it's not going to want to do that. It's going to tear out, or you're going to end up with like a V when you want to swoop. And so you often end up making more passes. You end up focusing too much on this one spot. And before you know it, you've made too many passes and you can't come back, And, the kind of doing these sweeps is one example, but certainly I did a lot like in faces when there would be crevices, and I would overdo those crevices and they would be just so deep it'd be ridiculous. So you want to watch yourself a little bit on that. Just come off of it, and just kind of leave it. If it's okay if it's rough. It is nice to, as you're going along in your carving, to have everything nice and clean looking, but it's okay if some parts are a little bit rough. And you have to find a balance in that idea of in general, you don't want to completely turn off uh, your the way that the wood wants to go, right, or the way that the blade is going with the wood. Um, you always want to keep changing your design or working with whatever has happened already. It's just you don't want to get too obsessed over very small little instances. But in general, the philosophy in wood carving is just basically like, to get more control, you have to give up control. Basically, in the beginning, you'll be fighting and overpowering the wood, and you'll get a lot of tear outs and ugly cuts. And as you'll see older and older guys have been carving for longer and longer, or ladies, excuse me, gals, um, and they'll just have this like weird zen way that they can cut through the wood, and some of that sharpening, whatever, but a lot of it is uh, finding that balance between what the wood wants to do and what you want to do. All right, so, and also if if you guys didn't want to, if you want to try to do a little bit of a actual bandsaw thing, you could do a little jewelry saw or one of these tiny weird saws or something. You could certainly remove some wood like that if you wanted to. I don't know. I mean, most regular the bandsaws, like especially with the thin blades, they can do these wild curves. They can pretty much do anything. And I guess at this side, you'd use a jigsaw or scroll saw. But anyway, I mean, for me, when on larger stuff, I ended up going to the hatchet, and it just wouldn't do stuff like a bandsaw would, and things would get too messy. You can remove wood, but not like super detailed and get these crazy rough out shapes. So anyway, yeah, when you guys are looking for projects and stuff, Um, you just want to use, like, when you're looking at books and stuff or on the internet, you just want to use that stuff for like inspiration. You know, um, you have to. It's really, just like what I was telling you earlier about this kind of concept where pretty much almost all shapes, animals, whatever it is, can be, you can get an image off the internet, top, bottom, and profile, and transfer it on a piece of wood. And if you follow those steps, I mean, you'll have it, um, no problem at all. You maybe be a little bit uh, nervous the first time, but after you do it the first time, you'll have that confidence, and you'll feel more comfortable tackling kind of your own ideas. Not that there's not, just in that, not even if they're not your own ideas necessarily, but adapting other things that you want to do to the size of wood or the what you have at hand to make that happen. See, I'm using a pocket knife on this one, and we're using a knife throughout the whole thing in general. Um, I think it's fun to use pocket knives. Not all the time. They get a little uncomfortable on the hand, kind of ridiculous. But there's something romantic about carrying one around with you and being able to whittle on some stuff, being like the old time hobo or tramp, excuse me. Um, all right, so there I'm kind of showing where the shape there that I'm going to be taking out, because again, at some point, you're not going to be able to really see the drawing. You have to kind of go for it, and then again, just keep a strong dynamic shape that your mind can keep a model of, so you don't get lost and things don't get too muddled and you don't know what to do. Anyway, so yeah, pocket knives. Pocket knives are really hard. I've had some people ask me about this. Not many people make great pocket knives nowadays. I mean, there is some, but selling, carbon steel um, is not very like commercial friendly. It's not like modern day type of product materialism. I mean, the things can rust like so quick, and a lot of these people have them made somewhere else, and those things could rust on their way over on the boat or something like that, and it's just not enough control for the way that modern business works. So I hear there is a few, but regardless, I mean, it's just back in the day, quality steel used to be super cheap. So pretty much, if you just go get a vintage, knife, and maybe you have some from your grandpa or something, or if you're an older gentleman or lady, maybe you just have some. And I mean, pretty much most any knife, even the cheap ones I've found, um, they're great steel, And so you basically just go find some of these, and they're pretty cheap because they're all over the place. Because people used to own so many pocket knives. I mean, some of you guys know this. Like, everybody's grandpa has, or had passed down, a crap load of knives. And really, what you want to look for is that you just want to have the knife to feel solid. You want to have a little bit of snap. You don't want the blade to be swinging around, so it's not dangerous. Um, and what I have found is that some of my best ones, I think this one too, maybe, because people fight over them on the internet, especially the nicer ones. Those people they'll not want the pocket knives that are like with the broken blades on them, and for us that's like totally fine. I got this like herder knife. I think I carved it in a video with it. I don't remember, but oh man, the thing is just amazing. One of the blades is completely broken off, and the other one was like broken almost in half, and it was perfect for me. I mean, the outside of it after it was cleaned up was beautiful, and then basically what I did was I very slowly, without ruining the heat treat, shaped the half of the blade, curved that over and just made it kind of a shorter blade, which is what we use in carving anyway. So it's generally suggested that you don't get a knife with too many blades on it. The more blades are on a knife, like the more uncomfortable it's going to be. Um, and boy, there was a wood carving illustrated where a guy was talking about modifying knives, and he had like this weird material that he put on the blade so that it would, I don't know, for whatever it would do chemically, it would make it so that it wasn't as, you couldn't screw up the heat treat as easily. And if you guys don't know about that, steel is heat treated, okay, and if you're working on it, like say on a power tool, like a grinder or sander or anything like that, it'll heat up from the friction very quickly. And if it turns a color, it'll turn colors like blue and then whatever it is. The heat treat on that steel is ruined, and the knife is pretty much gone. Okay, so here this is basically, we've done kind of the cutouts. I haven't done the head yet because it's going to get really fragile and you need something to hang on to. You should do a little bit of shaping if you want to, but you can also see that I leave the head's not, there's not a lot of space for the head, but I leave the bird's kind of fat basically. You leave room there so that I can bring the shoulders back down a little bit and kind of adjust things as I need to. There's also the way that the feathers, especially on the top where it makes that heart shape, those will go in, and that'll make the neck longer and the head longer, make more space. So, but again, you just kind of leave everything a little bit fat, and when you do the head, see how it looks, and if you need more room, then make the body a little bit smaller. And on that note, this is the smaller piece, from like the commercial grab bags that I did. You'll see the other birds I did from the bigger one from eBay, which I'll put a link down below. Hopefully the guy's still selling it. He put together a grab bag on eBay. It's really good wood, and if you just buy basswood off eBay in general, when you can, it's way cheaper. And these guys don't harvest the trees for commercial uses. They go find the trees, and all that is nice, ethically or whatever. But it's also, the wood is so much better to carve if it's dried naturally a little bit, because these guys put them in a kiln so that it will kill the bugs and dry it the rest of the way so it will be stable. And so the commercial guys, they cut those things down, they throw them right in the kiln, and you'll feel the difference if you get some more natural drying wood. It's so much better. The stuff that they throw right into the kiln, it's like crystallized, and it tears out easier. Doesn't feel as good. It's interesting. It also is a little more white and clear. So sometimes the natural drying ones can have a little bit of more color, and sometimes guys will sell those as like paint grade is what they call it, I think. Paint grade basswood or whatever it would. Sometimes it also means it has wormholes in it or something, but a lot of times it means it has spalting or some weird coloring on it. It needs to be covered up, but anyway. So you can see here, like, mostly what we're doing is after we kind of made that basic shape of the profile silhouettes, we're just kind of rounding over, and this is really going to do a lot of the bird here. I feel like I'm leaving off a few places where I jumped off of, and I gotta jump off again here. How stylized you want to make this bird is up to you. I try to find like a comfortable medium of it being kind of rounded, but still look like it's been hand carved, but not too many details, right? So if you want, you can go after, you can make it look like a real life bird, or you can make it much more geometric with much more planes, and you can also go into a bunch of details, whatever. At this size, you can't do a whole lot of details. You can have to do it with whatever. This is about what I do here. Again, You see what I'm doing there, and when I'm deepening that line for the feathers a little bit. You don't even have to put that there. So these birds, if you look up on do a search or whatever for wood carving birds, or whatever, you'll run into this style of birds. It's like similar to the shape, but it's they're larger and they basically just don't have any planes on them. They sand the crap out of them. I'm not sure if they hand carve them at all. They maybe just do power carving. And I think they even have a name in some like in some cultures or whatever. Are they called worry birds or something? I have no idea. Lovebirds. Anyway, there's one guy that did. I don't know what it was. The concept. It was like he did one every day for a year. He did 100 of them, and each one was a different type of wood. It's a really interesting little thing to look at because it kind of shows you a bunch of different woods. The problem is that again he's not hand carving, and so everything's different. When you power carve wood, you enjoy different woods. The power carving guys, they use like Tupelo. You cannot carve out that by hand. It's like the worst wood in the world. But just the sand. If when you sand a piece and put like a finish on it, it's totally different. And then there's the other side of the whole bird thing, which is still very large now, which is the ducks and the wildlife type birds. And these guys, they do much larger stuff and generally do everything they can to make the birds look as real as possible. So this style is generally usually called like a what is it? Folk art, yeah, which basically means like retarded. Anyway, seriously, it does. It's like uneducated. Never mind, whatever. I think this is the best kind of wood carving, truthfully. And yes, I must bring up Sean Sepa again. He's the master. But yeah, this size, you can't really put that much more detail on there. And if you make them a whole lot bigger, then it gets a lot harder because you'll have to know what's needs to happen in the anatomy. You can't just have these like very simple shapes that are happening. You can't get away with as much. But yeah, the bird guys, like the super realistic ones, they'll do like all these different kinds of ways they make eyes and put them in there, and then they'll like get some clay to make eyelids, and then they'll paint over that like with Bondo or some crap, and then they'll make the legs out of nails or wire, put Play-Doh on there to make it look like there's meat. And it's like it just gets like so far away from wood carving. Like I have a hard time even like using two separate pieces of wood, like glue them together or something. Like I don't know, kind of like a weird purist minimalist, I guess. I don't know, but definitely check some of that stuff out. It's a whole genre and passion for a lot of people working on what what are they called? I want to say waterfowl, but that's of course it's the whole whatever. I keep thinking that because there's a waterfowl festival up here. It's like this huge deal, and it's basically like one of the biggest woodworking, wood carving kind of things you can go to. But anyway, yeah. Anyway. So yeah, it's a fun project. I've really been enjoying these. As much as there's like these like kind of nitpicky decisions you have to do to get the body and whatever the head look just right or how you want it, it's really not like a lot of. It's pretty mindless and it's very relaxing, and pretty much whatever decision you make, the bird looks good, especially after you paint it or put some finish on it. So. What we're gonna do with the beak or face or whatever, basically it depends on how large the wood is that you're working with, and just what kind of bird you want to do. But you don't really have to do a super like defined beak. It can really just, I did a few where there was just like just kind of a point um, coming from that kind of sphere of the head, the skull. Just kind of came to like this, like, dunce cap sort of on the front of the face, and that worked out fine. On some of them, I didn't even bring the beak to a point. It's just like a little flat spot on there. If you do start to articulate it, though, you want to be careful not to take too much out and not to, cut off the beak as well. You'll have to mess around with the shape of the head a little bit. It really affects the character of the bird and the carving. I guess most birds, they're... I don't know. Their heads aren't really like a sphere with a beak in the middle. It's more like... how would you explain that? It's more like a deflated basketball. I don't know. I don't know what the shape is. So you could think of it like as a half of a sphere kind of deal, and basically that the beak is on the bottom. And again, after you look at that, the head and the beak, you may want to take the shoulders back a little bit. These proportions are what are going to they'll change what the kind of bird it looks like. If the neck and head are proportionally looking longer, it will tend to look more like a bird of prey. But if the head's like, there's not much neck and it's like much larger, then the bird will look smaller. I didn't look at like any birds until I was at the painting phase. And usually when you're doing a carving like this, you don't want to look at a real life thing, because it's basically it's just gonna screw you up. You kind of in the beginning, you kind of want to have an idea or whatever, or as close as you can get, and then when you're working on it, you just kind of play around with it and see what makes you happy with the shapes, and that's what's gonna make it a nice looking piece. Nobody else who's looking at your pieces, they don't have a picture of a bird with them in front of them either. So basically, it's just art in general is not, ever since photography came out, it's visual art's not for documenting reality, right? It's become much more of a projection of what's on the inside of our minds. And the best way to do that, is not to look at reality. It's to kind of let these stylized shapes happen that our minds will make. And that's, usually what makes good pieces. What makes people feel like, a piece is really a piece and not just like a piece of craft. I don't know, that's kind of some strange words there, since craft has become such a special word recently. A special word. So yeah, there's about the bird there's. Yeah, you'll have to mess with also the way the wings are, the tips of the wings at the end there. He looks a little bit like a freaking, what is it? Like a penguin or like a fish. The thing is the tail feathers aren't generally like that on a bird if they're just like chilling with their wings closed. They're usually like, it's just like a few feathers that are sticking straight out, and that wouldn't really work on this. So as you saw me drawing earlier, you can try a few different shapes, or you can make it a little bit smaller, but I think this works okay, especially after they get painted. Yeah, but anyway, you have those wings kind of coming up on top of the tail feathers there, and you want to have them come as close to the end of the tail feathers as possible. On a few of mine, especially the longer pieces of basswood that I made these out of, they're the different sizes, not just sizes, but the proportions the ratios of the wood that you carve something out of, they're gonna lend, your carvings to certain, certain things. Like all the ones I did of the longer ones, or of the larger pieces, they were really like longer rectangles, and so most of those look like larger birds because, as I was saying earlier, like if they have a longer neck, and they're like skinnier in general, and again, it's all relative, of course, the skinny and everything, but proportionally speaking, if the width of their body and head is, not very much compared to the length of them, then they'll look much more like a bird of prey. Or not even like a bird of prey, but like, I noticed they started looking like seagulls, the bigger ones. You'll see it later. And by the way, I was originally, because I live in New York, was gonna do like a pigeon series, and a few of them are pigeons, but something just kind of went into other directions. So I was like, okay, just let that happen. It's okay. And yeah, and most of the shorter pieces like this one, they tend to, look like smaller birds because they're much fatter in relation to their length. So yeah, I mean, this size, you don't have to worry about a whole lot. You don't have to do like a lot of eyes or anything, and you don't have to worry about the legs either. Basically, most of these they just sit on top of something. I make a few props for them or whatever, but in the beginning, I was thinking, like that you could cut like a little L-shaped chip somewhere where their feet would be, and then you could either sit them on something or they could be epoxied or whatever it is. But it turned out that wasn't really necessary. If they're not sitting the way you want them to, because and all of these, but because for whatever reason the way that you carve them, they'll look natural at different angles, and so leave a lot of belly on these things, and put him on a little block and see how he's sitting, and then see if he looks better if he's like horizontal or looking down or kind of a little bit up, and you can kind of make that plane on the bottom, make a little flat spot at the angle you want it, so he'll just kind of sit the way you want him to, or you can just again glue it in the way you want it to, or drill a little hole and stick something in there and glue that. Do it to the other thing too. I didn't have any. I don't. I'm making a fourth floor walk up now, so I don't have like my huge piles of trash wood anymore, unfortunately. Because these guys would look great on like some like proper sized twigs, and especially if you got a good like multi-branch twig and put that in like a base, like of a block piece of wood. So it was like kind of like a Christmas tree, kind of deal, like a really small one, and then you could have a few of these birds and like attach them onto the limbs. It'd be really cute. But again, because I was doing these like pigeons, and I was getting the seagulls, and then also getting way off topic here. A friend of mine's birthday, I did a present and I messed it up, right? And so she likes fishing and stuff, and that's kind of her thing. She'd been at wood carving like bait, and my girlfriend had come up with the idea of like doing a lobster trap. These old school lobster traps that have these floats. Look them up; they're like really cool. It's like these weird blocks of wood that are super aged, and they've been painted, these weird colors, and they look like popsicles or something. And basically, I just took like a small piece of basswood. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about that. No, wait. I made that for her. Okay, so then on this project, I wanted to kind of do that again. And again, I was thinking about the beach, so I wanted to do like for the seagulls or whatever. Like when there's piers and stuff at the ocean, there's like these logs, big cylinders that'll be part of a dock or whatever, and a lot of times they'll have rope around them, for like when the boats come in. And so I like kind of made these faux little tiny aged logs. And then my girlfriend had these, for some reason, had all these weird, like, different kinds of little tiny rope, and they looked just like but of course much smaller, like the sea rope that they use. So I'd like wrap that around there. You'll see that later. All right, and there he is there. You can still see like little planes on there. You can tell he's been carved. There's a little bit of rough spots there in some of the crevices. And again, we're looking at him pretty up close here. Once it gets painted, this will be good here. I spent more time on some, and then it did a few even more rough than this. So it really was just kind of getting the shape down that mattered more. Because he's so small, you can easily lose the kind of I don't know, the concept of the idea, the way it looks. Kind of these, it's just so small that these curves that make him what he is are going to be lost really quickly. You end up doing too many passes trying to fix something, because it's not just like one profile view. When you're looking at these curves, you make a cut on one of these things, and you're actually like affecting multiple while you turn it. So get it to look decent from most angles, and then kind of leave it there. So the reason why you leave this guy kind of fat when you're working him out, as fat as you can, while it's still like kind of having your brain understand what's going on and be able to take the next step. And these guys are really fun, and so I'd say just doing a few of them and not and doing them like together. Start like do the first steps of one and then do the other one. That way you can you don't feel so bad about taking a chance with one of them. And then if that works out, go that way with the other one too. Kind of do that. Or if it doesn't work out, you got to take another chance on it and just go in a different direction with that one. So if you just kind of go through it, this is a short one, so your brain does retain some information when you go to the next one after finishing it. But in any carving, like, you're gonna forget a lot of the little stuff. So if you do it in little steps, you do another one with it, your brain's gonna retain a lot more information, not just on the second one, but in total. It will be able to go over that step again right away. Anyway, here we are painting this. This is something new that I did for this one. I usually suck at painting, and so I just can't water down stuff, and I always end up like making stuff look like paper mache. This guy was so small, and I've been watercoloring a bunch. I figured, why not? I'll try it. And so I just watercolored him, and it worked out great, really. This guy is really small, so that's one thing there. You don't generally buy watercolor in huge amounts in general, but it would take a while probably to do a larger piece. I had the patience to do it with this one because I could. It didn't cost that much time or anything to do multiple passes if I needed to. On this guy, I don't really need to. I think I do one edit, which you'll see in a second here. Kind of laid down this base coat so that when I went back with the dark stuff, it didn't run. Because you're getting this guy wet when you're doing like this fade here, whatever you decide to do. If you do a pigeon or something like that, it has black on it. Your blacks, whites, and grays, they're always going to run into each other, always going to cause problems. So you want to pick one, do it first, and then you can do the other one. It'll be clean, and things won't run into each other. And there, I did leave the water brush for a second to do the details. And actually, I'm not sure if I do it on this one, but on some of the other birds, or just when I do really small stuff like this, I just forget about the brush completely. You don't want to trust the for that brush to bend and then mess up your detail. So if you have a really small thing to do, just get a toothpick or a little wood shard, put some paint on the end of that, and it will be like bubbly. You're gonna have a thicker paint on that. But like for an eye or something, that's what you want anyway, and that works out with it because it will have a bit of roundness and glossiness, and that's okay. So you just pop that on there. If it's like white on black, you do one, whichever way it is, you do one, let it dry completely, then you go back in with the other one, and it'll be clean lines on top of each other. That's the best way to do that. You can drag it a little bit for stuff like, I think on one of these, like the beak, I needed to do that, or a detail. Just didn't trust the brush too. So back to these water brushes that I use through most of this. They're pretty expensive for the most part. What I've seen, they're like near $15 when you buy them in art stores here. You can buy them on like eBay from China or whatever like a site you use to buy these cheap Chinese goods. You get like 3 of them. They're like $1 each, something like that. I ruined my first set, so I would suggest at least get a set of 3. I think they sell them at 6 or 7, but you can get multiples, and because they're so cheap, and it takes a while to get there, so get to your place. But they're really fun. It's like, I have ruined some, like putting either ink in the back or just not cleaning it soon enough, and the paint will get inside there and the mechanism gets like ruined or whatever. Because on some I've used them like just put ink in the back, kind of just use them as calligraphy brushes or whatever pens, brush pens. Because they sell those sometimes, and those too are expensive. Anyway, the point is, in this case, because it's not just like you don't have to dip your water brush in a jar of water, which also makes it much more portable. Which, as you see with this kit right here, it's a little fold-up kit. I think this is actually my girlfriend's. And you see the back of the water brush that came with it. It's a much more controlled watercolor when it's coming out of the pen, because you're not having to dip the brush in there. So that's for good or worse, for better or worse. And in this situation, it's good because it helps control what you're doing there. When you're doing large watercolors, you of course cannot do some of the same things. But we're not talking about watercoloring here. Anyway, it just worked really well doing the watercolor. Again, I'm really sloppy with acrylics. For some reason, I just can't water them down and just do like a single pass and let it dry. I just always end up making it like too much paint on there, and it'll look like it's paper mache or something. And if you're gonna lose the wood look to it, then you might as well just make it out of Sculpey to begin with. No reason to spend all this time. So I was happy to finally find something that worked. I will say one thing though, that usually what's not a problem is like you're doing people or something, and the basswood color is not a problem. When the basswood gets like any kind of finish on it, even if it's paint, it will end up looking like darker because it's wet, and then if that finish stays, it will stay kind of dark. Generally, the point of finishes a lot of times is how it brings the grain out. But I was having a problem here because like all these guys, all the birds that I did had a white spot on them or gray spots, and they weren't, had to do a few passes, but you still want to keep the wood texture. So with the white, what you need to do, what I should have done with this one is use like a legit gesso, because gesso is made to be so that it can be watered down, for canvas in particular, and you can still have a canvas texture, but that your colors will be able to show through basically. So it's not just like a white. It's made to be thin and still be like very strong, and be able not even show you it's white through. So whatever color goes on top of it, it's like its first layer kind of. And in this case, it worked out okay. I just kind of went back with a few passes, made sure not to overdo it. And this white watercolor, which I didn't even know there was white color watercolors that were successful, but these are definitely. But yeah, I had to go over some of the whites a few times. On one, actually, I may have even just switched to like an acrylic or an ink or something. But yeah, I think, in fact, I remember now that like it's in a book. I'm sure it's Sean Cephas. It's like the only guy I reference ever. I'm sorry, Sean. There's a lot of pressure on you. So did I talk about this guy? Oh, and right. So after I got off the pigeon and then later the seagull thing. There's seagulls here in Brooklyn. It's so weird. They're like trash gulls, dump gulls or something. I'm sure people have a name for them. I guess we have water nearby. Whatever. So this guy, after the gulls and the pigeons are both black and white for the most part. I was like, yeah, let me do another one, because I also got this vintage bird book, and so I went looking through there for some smaller looking birds, the fatter ones, because this is one of the shorter pieces. I forgot what this guy's called, but on the one before this, actually, I just tried to make up a guy, because I'd looked through there. I was like, oh, whatever, they all kind of have the same pattern. I was like, I'll just follow it, kind of. I'll make him like rainbow, and it was like a total mess. So I ended up having to do a lot of washing of him to try to get him back. I guess we'll see him at the end there. And did we talk about this? I also did a walnut one, which did not turn out as good as I thought it would, but I thought it'd be a good idea. I did, this, I did like a really small duck. I don't know if you guys watched my carving video, like I showed my own carvings, or some of them at least. But you sand out all the planes, all the corners on there, and you'll put some finish on it. Whether it's basswood or you start with a walnut, and you can make them darker, and then you do a bunch of smooth layers of finish on it. And it looks really nice. So I kind of thought that it might work with this guy. Oh, and also, as I brought up, I think earlier, this other guy that did these projects, I've seen him before. They've been in a magazine or something. These very simplified sanded birds. They look kind of like this. They're larger, but they're like less detail. Just they sand the heck out of them. This guy that he did like 100 of them or one every day for a year or something, whatever it was, and he uses a bunch of different woods, and those, like, they really brought out the nice look in the wood. And I thought it was like so close to it. I was like, oh well, I'll do a walnut one and it'll be really nice. And it really wasn't. It was just like, I was carving these, and I'm sure I could have sanded them, but it's a whole other project. It's strange. I thought it was close to it, but I'm sure if I went back and looked at these other birds, I feel like they maybe even call them worry birds because you like can kind of put them in your hand and like rub them or something like that. That sounds weird. Anyway, you see that they left his tail a little bit fat on the end. All right. So pretty much, your paint jobs, maybe start with something more simple. These guys go really quick and they're pretty fun, so don't get too caught up on these. Just plan on doing a few of them and just kind of figure them out. Just let them go however they want to go. Maybe carve a few of them. Do like these, they're so simple on the way they're shaped. You can test all of your painting on a little piece of wood or scrap, whatever. All the methods and see how that works out. I probably should have been doing it at this point, especially with how many times I tried filming this thing and it went south. But I guess a lot of that was actually just from me not knowing how to film. But yeah, they were really fun, which is a good thing because I had to do them like 8 times. But anyway, yeah, they're just like little tiny guys. I think I'll keep them in my kind of in a bag of tricks on little things that I whittle that are just kind of fun to whittle and get something out of it pretty quickly and not have to think about it too much. And I would like to try one certainly with a twig or natural piece of wood. As I said before, as long as you keep the pith, because these guys, we slanted these in the block. If you slant them on the on that, whatever you want to say, this kind of cross cut of a log or a twig, that pith on the twigs is going to be really, really, it's almost always going to rot out, or it's not going to be there, or it's just going to be so soft you can't put any details in or anything. If you did a cross cut on that and you had this guy a little bit diagonal, just like we did on the block, then he should be okay on the pith. Should just be like right under his head, and then hopefully above his the feathers on his wings there. I don't know. If the twig had some shape though, you could kind of do a little bit more as well. You could maybe have his head going down or up. Again, he could do that, especially at this size, or maybe even a little bit smaller. Especially if the grain was going in the direction you needed it to go. And a lot of twigs do that. They'll curve around, and then you can feel more comfortable having his beak pointing in a different direction besides just exactly with the grain, because that's pretty much what I did on all these. Have the head going kind of diagonal again up with that on the block, but still have his beak pretty much with the grain. So I didn't have. It's just so small. Yeah, I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Please send some pictures or upload them to the site. I made the Lucky Clover group, carving group, whatever it's called, club, so that you don't have to ask me to join or anything. Just join, start uploading stuff, or I don't know if you guys are hip enough to do hashtags. I certainly don't. But we send it over to my email. I have not been answering anybody lately. I haven't been doing much, as you guys probably notice. But send them over anyway. I'll get look at it eventually. NoSubject13@yahoo.com. And I don't know. Yeah, I kind of sucked at doing the wood carving group. I wish we had something a little better though. Even if it wasn't a group, if we just post our pictures somewhere. If anybody likes to be social, please do that and let us know, or just put it in the links. You don't need my permission or anything like that. I said put it in the links. Put a link in the comments. That's what I meant. Oh, look, I wrapped the birdie up in a little blanket. Never mind. So it looks pretty messy, but that's kind of what I did on these. Is I was These guys specifically, like the birds that needed this kind of detail, I should have shown the picture of what he's supposed to look like, but uh, it's hard to, even when you pre-mix the paint, um, it's hard to tell what consistency it's really going to be because it's always, just like anything else on wood, it's going to affect each piece of wood differently. And not just piece of wood, I mean, every cut's going to be going a different direction, which means there's going to be like more area for the straws and the grain to suck up the paint. And if you guys have stained a piece of wood, you know what happens there. It's just like a very different degree of how much color there is. Basically, end grain will take a lot more color if it has enough to soak in. And it's cross grain, then there's not going to be a whole lot of suction. So on a piece like this, even if you're not sanding, all these little angles of these cuts are going to be different, taking paint in differently. So again, I just kind of do the details a little bit coarse, and then I'd either wash them out with some. I had this white watercolor was pretty dense, so I'd use that, or you can use water a little bit, as you've seen me do. I'll just kind of wash it up with some water and then wipe it. And I needed that also to blend in because he had such a light top. So even though this bird is pretty contrasty, it just wasn't going to work as a carving or as a piece this small for him to be that contrasty. So I think one of the reasons that is because the wood is underneath there, so we don't have a lot of layers of paint. It is just going to be kind of very light, so you kind of have to take down the saturation. If you're working in Photoshop, would be what you would do, take down saturation, take out some of that the contrast in the colors, basically. And that also happens when you do like the antique looks. These guys, I'm sure, could take an antique finish or whatever. It's just like there's nowhere for anything to go. It's usually based off like faces or bears or whatever it is. Those, and this guy doesn't have really any crevices. He's got like one or two, and pretty much you'd be wiping it off the whole thing. So you maybe just like look a little bit dirty, or most likely just look a little bit glossy from whatever finish you put on there. So I think when I did the tongue well finish, which is thinner than the matte polyurethane, it was still like I wiped them off afterwards with a. You need to make sure you wipe them off with any kind of finish, something that doesn't have lint. So like no paper towels. You can use like an old shirt that's been washed a million times and just don't cut it right then, or use the part where it's cut, because that'll let the lint go. It has a little bit of a yeller belly. And it may seem a little bit harsh, but yep, wipe it off there a little bit, and it'll fade even more. I think this whole guy fades a little bit more after he dries. It happens with basswood, and you just have to keep going. Do multiple layers if you need to, I guess. And I don't know if you guys noticed that there was a cut that I laid down the first colors, that gradation that's in his that blue. I'm not sure what else I did actually in the beginning there. But yeah, I got a little bit brash with his eyes, as you can tell. But really, they don't need to be that big on this one. The other one that was a little bit bigger, like I did get in trouble making eyes too big. And you can always like dig a little hole, and you feel safe with it. Drop a little bit of polyurethane in there. That's how you can make your own eyes doing that. You like paint an eye on paper, and then you drop polyurethane on there, like a thick urethane or something that's clear, or a resin, and let it like bead, so you have like a little tiny bit of a sphere there. Really, it's like like when you have water fluid and it has that skin on it, so it can allow it to bead, and you can make eyes with that. I did that at one point a long time ago. Again, it's kind of outside of my minimalistic ideas, very snobby ideas of carving on my AC/DC shirt. Great job. Yeah, the watercolor worked really great though. You can see I just you don't have to worry about my hands or anything. Just get it all over myself. It's nice. See the watercolor of my cat underneath my arm there. Looks like Batman. I got way too carried away with watercoloring on my backup paper there. And by the way, I've done a lot of this on my lap. That's what's going on here. You guys can't tell I'm not wearing my pants. Just kidding. I just have like a big journal, and that was kind of nice. I got this. My girlfriend got me this like apron, and it's got this fold over thing that catches wood chips, and I kind of like that, and I was like, it's like not catching everything. I need something bigger, so I just like laid down a big old thing. I'm like, hey, this is nice. Like, it's really not bad. Because every time I'd be carving something, I'd be leaning forward and stuff. Granted, it's when you need a little bit more leverage, but when you're doing this little stuff, it's not a problem. And so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys do some. And we're pretty much done with him here. And I'll show you guys some pictures of this guy after he dries a little bit, and some other guys. And I got a little carried away with the footage. There he is there. Got some nice backlighting there. There you can see the little, the pedestal I made with the rope wrap tied around it. And a bunch of cuts in there. So you can see in this lighting too, you can see these planes that I got, not sanding it, keeping the carving a little bit rough. And I really like that. It's again, something I look. Yeah, it's in a lot of carving, but like specifically Sean Sipa does a great job capturing that. It's kind of, again, it's called folk art, but I don't think that's, people kind of put that down a little bit too much. So anyway, enjoy this. I'll put on some crappy music of mine, and carve safe, guys. Oh, and real quick here, here's the walnut guy. Actually, and none of them have finish on them apparently in these pictures at the end here, but whatever. Also, I'm gonna put a link below. It'll be on the blog it'll have like some front and back and side shots, so you can put them on each side of these pieces of wood from the grab bags. If you want to go ahead and paste them straight on there, or if you just want to change my design a little bit and use that. So anyway, take care, guys.